It's Saturday, May 24th, 2014. I'm Jimmy Principe.
And I'm Trey Comstock. Put in your final orders because this is Tech's Last Call, episode 76. Your last call for Tech News of the Week tonight. Jimmy gets hacked selling his Tango, and I have a new surface for twitching. But we start tonight with Microsoft keeping things real, shall we say. So Microsoft seems to live to surprise us, but not always in a good way. The rumor mill had it partially right. There was a new Surface announced at Microsoft's Tuesday press event to talk about something small. But it wasn't the Mini that everyone thought was a shoo-in. No, it was the larger Surface Pro that everyone thought was a distinct maybe. Microsoft rolled out the Surface Pro 3.
Oh, that must be because it came after 2.
Yes, I get the naming convention. It's no longer even Steve Ballmer. So the Surface Pro 3 is a 12-inch device that is billed as the tablet that can finally replace your laptop. It has a larger screen. The other Surfaces have 10-inch screens. It has better battery life.
Size,
Yeah. Has a thinner profile than the Surface Pro 2. And an improved hinge that will let you pick any angle to have it at.
On the kickstand.
On the kickstand, like a laptop. Real innovative. It uses Intel's Core series of processors, so it's not Atom-based, it's full-on Core-based. And for the first time in the Surface line, it will allow you to buy a Core i7. The aspect ratio has been changed to 3:2 rather than 16:9 to better simulate paper, or to better simulate an iPad, or to work better in portrait mode, because everyone...
Or to not look ridiculous in portrait mode.
Because 16:9 looks crazy in portrait mode. Part of the focus here is design professionals. They showed off a pen-friendly version of Adobe's Photoshop, and specifically showed off Revit. The other focus of it is note-taking. There's deep OneNote integration where you just click the pen and instantly launches OneNote, and the pen itself is supposed to, be the best thing you can do digitally short of actual paper. So this all comes with a price, which in this case is a hefty price tag. It starts at $799 for the Core i3 and 64GB hard drive and no keyboard. If you want to totally max this thing out with a Core i7 and 512GB hard drive and 8GB of RAM, be prepared to spend over $2,000. So can this be the one device to rule them all?
Well, that's always the question, because according to Panos Panay, it is the one device to rule them all.
Oh, yeah. Panos is really into this thing.
Because it's lighter than a MacBook Air 13-inch and an iPad together.
Well, it's also lighter, basically the same weight as my original iPad.
Yeah, that is the other interesting thing. So they shaved a little bit off of the weight. I don't know. Okay, I'm super intrigued by this device. And I actually... So I got interrupted. I was watching the keynote while at work. Got interrupted by work stuff. I use Revit at work. So I did not see them showing that off.
They did show off Revit.
So I'm going to go back and watch the video now. After
I thought of you when they did that. I said, "Oh, look, they're showing off Revit. Jimmy should see this."
Yeah, no, I missed it. I totally missed it. I'm sure it works barely.
Well, I mean, it's a graphics. I don't know.
It's a graphics problem.
It's probably using Intel integrated graphics.
Yeah, which is decent, but it's still not great.
Well, I mean, look, it's 100 times better than it used to be. I'll tell you that much.
Oh yeah, it's something that actually you can say, oh yeah, it's got the new Intel integrated graphics.
I used to video edit on a fairly early version of that, and whoa, it was awful.
I can't even imagine. Yeah, because I have my Yoga, my original Yoga. It's now 2 generations old on Intel's processor. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm going, this looks really nice. I like the pen, the fact that when you click it, it opens OneNote. Mm-hmm. And the fact that it looks, like all of the Surface pens, I've always been really, impressed by the Surface Pens. One of the comments I've seen a lot of tech journalists throw out there is about the pen, the fact that it doesn't fit into the actual body. But I think that that's really dumb because
This
if
is
you
not
look
a
at
Palm
it,
Pilot. I'm sorry. This is not a Palm Pilot.
so the reason why the original pen fit in the body was because the body was so thick. And so I said, well, we might as well put the pen in here. If you want something that is substantial enough for the video listeners, you'll see that is a pen.
Yeah.
You can't make it, the size of a toothpick.
Right.
It needs to be the size of a pen.
Right. I mean, even if you're me and use very thin pens for my baby hands, it's still not good for the thickness of your device.
So you need something that is actually like substantial. And so I'd rather have something that, they have the little loop on the keyboard cover to hold it.
You just put it in your pocket
I think
like a pen.
I really do think that the $800 i3 is the one. I think that's the no. I think that's
Depends.
It's interesting because in the past they didn't offer a lower power Surface
Or a high power.
or a high power, but
It was basically Core i5 or bust.
but it's interesting. I'm sure that there were not people that were saying, "Oh, we want a lower power Surface." I'm sure it was that
They
it was
wanted
that percent
cheap.
price, and they want to get it out there with the pen. I think the pen is the selling feature of this thing.
Well, I think for the Core i3 version, the
That's
pen
what I
is
mean.
the
The
selling
Core
point.
i3,
Yeah.
the Core i3 64. It's totally a consumption and light creation device.
Well, okay. So they bragged a lot. I'll pick up on that. They bragged a lot about and they used this where I did not come up with this term. This is not me. It's awful. And they even talk about how awful this term is, but that they use it. Lappability.
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 It's like Budweiser's thing with drinkability.
This is exactly like drinkability. The ability to drink it or the ability to put it on your lap. Now, I see Sydney pull this feat off, but only when her legs are stretched out. So she uses its original Surface, an RT. I will commit to this device, I think. But it's got to meet two criteria. One, that note-taking's got to be for real. And two, I've got to be able to write with it on my lap because it's going to be replacing my MacBook Air.
Right, write with it on your lap, not type with it on your lap.
No, type with it on my lap.
Oh, okay.
That's because, half of what I do is, I'm in meetings, or I'm in class, or I need to draw something. And there's a lot of my life that is I need to handwrite or draw a thing. And this already looks pretty much perfect for that. It will replace my Smart Pen and notebook. But if I'm going to spend $800, it needs to be able to replace my beleaguered and 3.5-year-old, coming up on 4-year-old MacBook Air. Okay? I have a 4-year-old MacBook Air. It's just old. It works fine, but it's slow, and it's time for a new device.
But I think the problem you're going to run into, though, first things first, you're probably going to get a new MacBook Air with Retina at WWDC.
But I'm not sure I care about that.
But
I'm not sure I care about that because that would just be replacing one thing. And if that note-taking pen thing is a huge selling point for me, but only if I can actually write on it, sitting in my studio, sitting on the couch that's right behind me with my legs crossed. If I can type doing that, sold. That thing's worth $800 to me. But only if I can do that.
I don't use my my laptop very much as I use it as a laptop because I have a laptop, right? So I put it on my lap and I use it, but I use it on that couch over there. And most of what I do, though, if I need something intense, I use this computer here, which is a high-powered desktop. I use a high-powered desktop at work. And even when I'm not at work and I have one of these devices, I'm usually putting it on a table or I'm putting it on – I like to put it on top of something just because of the angle works better for me because I'm more used to sitting at a desk.
See, for me, I literally use my laptop on my lap 80% of the time.
Well, yeah, it's because you have yeah.
But I mean, no matter what work I'm doing, most of the time my laptop is on my lap. I don't write at a desk.
Well, and I think that that's a big difference between your use case and my use case because your use case, you're using it as a hardcore word processing and all kinds of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm a hardcore word processor
as a hardcore internet device.
Right.
Does the internet? It also has Lightroom on it, so I can do that. It has Photoshop on it, I can do that. It has real programs.
Right. I mean, this is a real PC.
Right.
But my
But
problem.
I'm saying the way that I use it. I'm saying I'm talking use case. The way you
Sure.
use it, yes, lap ability is something that's very
Huge.
important to you.
Huge.
But it's not something that's very important to me. And I'd make the argument that for a lot of business people, they're going to be in my situation where if you're using a laptop, it's in a work situation or
I use it for work.
well, no, but in a like you're at a desk,
Don't work in an
or
office.
you're in an office, you're at a conference table, you are, and the times when I'm on a job site or something like that, a laptop is totally unusable because I'm mobile, I'm not sitting.
But see,
And so having something like this that I can, for example, fit in a Padfolio
right.
that is the size of a tablet of paper is perfect.
Well, no, and for, when I'm in meeting, I don't work at an office, but I certainly go to plenty of meetings and classes, and this is perfect for that. But my big concern is, and folks who have used it, Mary Jo Foley and Paul Thurrott, talk about how lapability is somewhat of a joke, even on this device.
Well, that's Dan Ackerman on CNET.
Right.
In his review, he says you can't do it. He's like, I'm more than 6 feet tall and it doesn't work.
Right, but I mean, I see Sydney use it on her lap all the time. So I have kind of differing sources of evidence. They've always said you can't use a Surface on your lap, and yet I've seen it done. And I want to see if this has improved it enough that, because that's a major use case for me. Well, because if that works, I'll buy one. Because this is kind of the device I'm looking for. I like the idea of the digitizing pen quite a bit.
So what do you think of the No Mini though? Like that's kind of
So okay.
that's weird.
So
It's an RT thing.
here's what I'm hearing. That they're real, and this is coming from folks like Mary Jo Foley and Paul Thurrott, is that there was going to actually be a mini. That was the plan. And that Satya Nadella and Stephen Elop scrubbed announcing the mini at the very last minute. Why is what we don't know.
And
Now, obviously, none of this is confirmed.
kind of thrown out there. One is that I can't remember what the source was, but I saw one where they were saying that it's just too similar to
Right. So there's
what Lenovo is offering and what Asus is offering, and what
Dell.
Dell is offering.
So that's one of the things I'm hearing. Is it's
HP
just
still makes crap, so
it's just and they announced at the announcement, Panos Panay said, our plan was never to compete with the OEMs, which is a lie, but
weird.
Revisionist history. But
Why are you making
a laptop,
hardware?
right?
He did not intend to compete with OEMs.
Right. So one of the things is, there's enough differentiation. The other thing is it all leaked, and they didn't like the leaks. That sold their thunder.
They didn't. Well, they also didn't like the fact that probably the reaction to the leaks was not super positive. It was
I don't know.
kind of
I would have bought the thing.
Well, but it seemed like most of the, I think the tech press honestly killed the Mini, because most of the tech press that wrote up about the Mini was kind of like, why do you want one of these things?
Yeah, but most of them are ignorant
Most of
jerks. I
And
don't know
most
why
of them
anyone
use
listens.
iPads, and they're like, I don't know why you want a Windows tablet.
It's
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 also the way I feel about Windows Phone. I feel like it is a wonderful thing.
like I can't read Scott Stein's laptop and tablet reviews anymore over at CNET because most of his are just like, what?
and
You
they're like
need this.
15
It's like,
pages long.
Scott, just because you don't need this, I can imagine a use case. What you need is to separate yourself, separate your head thoroughly from your ass, such that you can see the rest of the world around you. And maybe, just maybe, you might see a use case for a broader variety of devices that are not MacBook Airs and iPads. Just a thought.
But Trey, the MacBook Air and iPad combination is all I could ever want in the world.
Look, dude, I use a MacBook Air and an iPad to do 80% of my non-video editing work at this point, okay? I do my reading for research on an iPad, and then I do my writing on a MacBook Air, okay? I spend a total of less than $1,000 between the two devices, and I love it.
Well, you didn't spend anything.
Okay, that's true. Let me phrase this in passive voice. Less than $1,000 were spent. On between the two devices.
A political of you.
Thank you. Science and politics, the home of passive voice. So, and I'm really happy with that combination, okay? I use that exact combo all the time. I am that consumer at this point, and I'm happy with it. But there's very little innovation happening in either of those two spaces. Okay? The MacBook Air will get a Retina display. Oh, whoop-de-doo. It's just going to cost more. Sorry, don't care.
Well, they might make the footprint a little bit smaller, too.
I still don't care. What I want now...
What I want from the MacBook Air, actually, so if you look at the 11-inch, it's got that humongous bezel.
Oh, yeah. That needs to go.
I want a 12-inch screen in the same body.
In the same body. Sure.
Which is probably going to happen.
Right.
Technically, it's a 12-inch class screen because it's an 11.6.
Right. Yeah, Apple doesn't generally play those games, though.
They call it the 11.6 and the 13.3.
Right. They don't play games. So what I want is I want one device. And I want and it looks like the Surface
I'm not convinced that the Surface is okay, two things. One, I don't think that the dream of one device is ever going to come true. A. B, I think that the Surface comes really, really close.
I think the Surface Pro 3 is the closest I've ever seen.
And
it's one
so
device.
Close as to make me want to sell my current laptop and buy one. I would buy the configuration that is the same as my current laptop, the i5 128 gig.
Yeah.
8 gigs of RAM. And
see, I'd buy the 4 gig. I'd buy the most bare bones model, which is the same thing I did with my MacBook Air, because I don't need this to have any power at all. I have a MacBook Pro for that.
Yeah, and that's the 64. So, I mean, I guess I could solve this by, it has a micro SD slot, right?
Yeah, and SkyDrive.
A 64 gig. Well, that's true.
And SkyDrive.
No, it's not SkyDrive. It's OneDrive.
OneDrive to the cloud.
My brother would be very happy to talk to you about the benefits of OneDrive at this point, I'm
Look,
sure.
I think it's great software.
He's been fully indoctrinated at this point, I'm sure.
So, speaking of culture change and indoctrination, Variety is reporting that Google, through the auspices of YouTube, is in the process of buying game streaming site Twitch.tv for $1 billion, or exactly the same as an Instagram. I
think Twitch is better.
Then they get, in a way, they get quite a bit for their money. Twitch has 45 million users, which doesn't sound like that much compared to like a social network, but 1 million of them upload videos every month. It's also one of the top sources of internet traffic in the US. Those 45 million users are hugely dedicated users. Its audience is pretty niche, only gamers. But also keep in mind that the most subscribed channel on YouTube is also a gaming channel that would be right at home on Twitch's offerings. Twitch just does it live, whereas YouTube, you pre-record it and then post it. And also keep in mind, YouTube's live streaming offering has failed to catch on, except with the president.
And it worked for him.
But this deal has not been confirmed. But there's a benefit to Twitch here too. Twitch is having an issue with scalability. They need
an injection of Google over there.
Well, they've pushed the bounds of what their technology can do. They just don't have the servers and hard drives to really do this thing. And so, I mean, Google would be hugely beneficial because then they're just infinitely scalable. Because Google is one of the few
and purposes.
I mean, Google's one of the few companies that actually knows how to do this video streaming online thing without tanking their infrastructure.
Remember that time when they tried to DDoS YouTube? And YouTube just kind of went,
YouTube laughed. And Anonymous cried. So, could this be the death of Twitch when it gets all Google Plusified?
See, I don't think it's the death of Twitch. I actually think that it further... Okay, it's the death of Twitch as we know it.
Okay, so here's my argument for the death of Twitch. It has nothing to do... Like, YouTube still is basically YouTube, right? And so Google, this is not going to get... I think the brand is going to stay. You know, you might get some Twitch, a YouTube property, or whatever. And a little bit of integration. That's not my worry. Google Plus is my worry. Google Plus. Right now...
Oh, real name?
Real name. Keep in mind that, like, they tried to make it so that all YouTubers had to link to their Google Plus. They still would prefer if you did that.
They're still trying to make you do that.
And they're still trying to make you do that, though I think it's not exactly compulsory.
Mine's linked, but that's just because
so's mine. But
I'm a real person and I don't care.
Right.
And I don't do horrible things on the internet.
But it doesn't matter. Like, that's just not what Twitch is. And so I think
it's gamers.
It's gamers, and I think
gamer tags
and gamer tags is what matters. And it's punk rock, and I'm not sure you really want it in like the kind of at this point really sanitized Google world, integrated with Google Plus.
And so the integration with Google Plus, that's a concern. But the biggest thing that I think that Google can offer Twitch is server infrastructure, but B is the ability to live stream it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, I mean, Twitch has that now. Twitch is all about the live stream. I mean, it's most of what they do is live. What they don't have is really good archiving.
Oh, okay. That's fair.
So, I mean, it's kind of the reverse, right? So what YouTube, you can technically live stream, but people don't really do it. But it's really good at the archiving. What keeps breaking Twitch is that they don't have the space for the archiving. And so only some things get archived, some things don't.
Okay, then
it's really
Twitch
weird.
Could be an interesting place then to have I don't know. There's someone at Google is far smarter than me and can figure out how to link these two things together to make it work. I think $1 billion for Twitch, that's a bargain. Like, just do it.
Well, I mean,
Google can solve Twitch's biggest problem like that, like without even blinking. It doesn't matter to them. They'll just have server infrastructure to spare for Twitch. It doesn't matter. So I don't know. I see this as a good move in general. Google needs to be careful with how they implement Twitch being brought into the fold. They're going to do it.
Well, and it's not like Twitch is some utopian ad-free place. Unless you pay them $9 a month, there's ads. So it fits in with that kind of model too. It's a really high engagement place that has a very unique identity and is attractive not because of its technology, but partly because of its identity. That it's the closest we have on the internet to like a gaming television station, right? So like all the Giant Bomb stuff streamed on Twitch, all of GameSpot stuff streamed on Twitch. It's the backbone for just, League of Legends, which is the biggest game in the world. No, I'm not joking. It is actually the biggest game in the world. Most of that is most of the popular League of Legends content is coming through Twitch.
Right.
I mean, you have a game with 67 million users worldwide, and most of their attention is focused on Twitch to watch the really good players stream their stuff. Dota as well. I mean, this is the home of this kind of stuff, of shoutcasting and really terrible Let's Plays. We have done content on Twitch. It's where we did our console launch stuff, was over on Twitch. Twitch.tv/TechLastCall. And hopefully in the next few months we're going to expand our content there. So, I mean, it could help us if these things get linked, and it's more in YouTube's wheelhouse than non-gamers realize, because there's a ton of gaming content. I mean, PewDiePie is the largest channel on YouTube, and it's a gaming channel. Right? Gaming and music videos are pretty much, and cats, pretty much all of what YouTube is.
Lots of cats.
I mean, lots of cats. So I think potentially this could be great, but potentially Google could ruin them by trying to integrate them a little too much.
Too quickly.
Or too quickly. I mean, this needs, kind of like YouTube, more than YouTube, needs its unique identity.
Well, YouTube had its unique identity for a long time. Think about how long it took for YouTube to be brought kind of fully into the Google fold. It was about like 3 or 4 years.
Sure, yeah. Yeah.
Which in Google time is like infinity.
Sure. But I still think that as you bring it in, you have to do it very, very intentionally and only so much. So like, no Google Plus. Let's start with no Google Plus, mandatory. Let's start there. You keep the subscription service. Let's keep that going too. You can still pay $9 a month for Twitch Turbo. No ads. I know it's not really Google's model, but no ads. And you don't do these weird things where they've been systematically squeezing out a lot of smaller producers on YouTube, right? There's been a lot of talk about the copyright stuff around gaming YouTube channels. We talked about this months ago. If that becomes part of Twitch, like, Twitch is where everyone went because YouTube started to get too restrictive for gaming in terms of copyright stuff. Where do you go now if that starts to be the problem? So I think
Bing Video.
Google needs to get better about how it handles copyright stuff, that it's not just shoot first and ask questions later, because everyone will just leave Twitch and start their own thing if that's the case, because that's where everyone went when YouTube got bad. And I think that's another angle of the story that people have been kind of barely touching on is, look, this copyright stuff needs to stay the same. So speaking of things getting ruined, what happened with eBay?
So, in the continuing saga of the internet not being a safe place for like people, Trey's favorite knick-knack website, eBay,
Buy a lot of stuff there.
hacked this week. According to a release by eBay itself, a large amount of encrypted passwords and non-financial information was stolen from the company's servers. Now, the cyber attackers were able to gain access in the age-old way of using a couple of compromised employee IDs and accessing information that way. So it's like, the easiest way in the world to steal stuff.
People are the problem.
People are always the problem. However, this is not actually where this story ends. Apparently, the password strength meter on eBay's password changer, according to Ars Technica, is fundamentally broken.
Yep.
So Ars tested a couple of different password combinations, and they discovered that a random 25-character password using numbers, letters, and just random characters registered as a weak password. Even though you just have to brute force it in order to get it, there's no dictionary words, nothing. There's no way you would figure it out. It's just a brute force. But another password, Superman 1963, where the S is replaced with a $sign, was listed as medium strength, and is also the example that eBay uses for their website of what a good password would be. That specific one, which it should pop up and tell you, no, you can't. No, that's dumb. Don't do that. So Trey, what does this breach mean for your internet shopping addiction?
Well, I need to go change my password.
That's true, you do.
I do need to go change my password. The password change servers crashed because so many people were trying to change their passwords. So I need to go do that. Look, it's spear phishing. This is not, okay. So there is a little weird thing going on with eBay in that they say that the passwords were encrypted, but we don't know what that means. So was it hashed? What type of encryption was used?
They used a book cipher, I think.
Right. So we don't know what the encryption method was, and so we don't know if they actually have access to the passwords. eBay is reporting that there's no evidence that this exploit has been used. So that would make one think that they were encrypted and they so far have not been able to get access to the passwords, or they're just really smart about how they use them. So there's that. So I am going to go change my password, and that's probably about it. Because this was spear phishing and not this wasn't like some weird back door. This was, humans are always the problem in a network. Fundamentally, it's always the humans. So we don't want to take that's too much the Internet of Things to completely take the humans out of it.
But really, the humans are always the problem.
But humans are always the problem when it comes to security. At the
end of the day, you always do stupid things like don't click on that link. You clicked on it? Well, great.
Schindler's Lust.
Damn it, Trey.
Right. So, speaking of stupid things. So any book you read in security, humans are always the problem. And so this isn't necessarily, I wish eBay would have told us earlier. Apparently this happened they found out 2 weeks ago. This happened in February.
They polished their story a little bit.
Right. So clearly, I don't know. Guess it's not a big deal because they didn't tell us all that quickly, and they don't think it's being used in the wild. So maybe it's fine, but go change your eBay password and realize that nothing is true and everything is permitted.
I mean, what do you think of the password changer weak, medium, strong thing?
People just use bad passwords.
Don't use Okay, go look up the 10,000 most common passwords. Don't use any of them on that list.
Right. I was pointed to a great XKCD that was like, how to make a strong password. Create a random phrase that's several words long that appears nowhere else in the English language. And that's one of the best passwords. Tom Merritt from Daily Tech News Show pointed me in that direction. But that's that's what you want to do, because then you can remember it. But it's not going to be super vulnerable to a dictionary attack, and it's really hard to brute force, and it needs to be like many, many characters long, but just, it's a random phrase so you can remember it.
Well, and that way it's not just random numbers where you have to write it down somewhere and then you lose the paper and then someone steals the paper and gets into your bank account, steals all of your files and all of the monies and
right. And
that's under a bridge somewhere. Don't do that. Don't live under a bridge.
Yeah. Don't live under a bridge. So, given that we've all just been hacked by eBay, so what are we going to spend our money on now, Jimmy?
Yeah, Google is going to make us nice and comfortable with a really weird rumor. They're apparently working on a 7-inch tablet running Project Tango that it may release for a limited beta at Google I/O. In case you don't remember Project Tango, which I did not until I saw this story, it's a project coming out of Google's Advanced Technology and Projects division.
What does it do?
In case you didn't know, is also the one that's run by mostly former DARPA researchers. So nothing to be concerned about there. The Project Tango uses cameras with infrared sensors to map the environment in 3 dimensions. The rumor is that the tablet will have 2 cameras, both on the back, both with infrared sensors.
So like the Amazon thing.
Kind of like the Amazon thing. And I don't know, Google's looking at it as a possible way to open the door to new user experiences with 3D scanning, interior mapping, immersive gaming, I guess. I don't know. Sure, immersive gaming. Google previously announced a prototype 5-inch phone back in February that had a similar kind of sensor to what's rumored in this 7-inch device. But I think the question that we really need to ask ourselves is, why in the world would I want this thing?
Well, I can't imagine the use case. That doesn't mean one doesn't exist, but I don't see it. I mean, are we talking about like a Minority Report style interface where something where like I'm waving around in space but you need VR goggles for that. So no.
See, I could
what
see
does this do?
The only thing I could see this useful for is like for visually impaired people.
I'm not saying there aren't. Yeah, but okay.
not in a tablet.
So it is able to map the interior of a space, which is great for Google because then they can map the interior of everything, including my house. But what benefit do I mean, I guess AR gaming, which
doing it.
Yeah, duh. I guess AR gaming, augmented reality.
That's the only. But then you have to you hold a tablet and look at it that way, or do you put it on goggles and do it that like? I don't understand what this thing is for. Now, granted, I said the same thing about Google Glass.
What is Google Glass? Please tell me.
Look like
what
a
is
glass hole? Obviously.
Right. Okay. Right. Tell me. You're right. I don't see the purpose of Google Glass. Touche. Right. Like, what is?
This is just another in a long line of like Project Loon. Like Google, what in the world are you people doing?
What are you
freaking mind?
That is the least efficient way to get internet, and vaguely racist because it assumes that internet isn't there already. This is a strange comparison, but I'm a seminary student. This is like technology's version of missionaries, right? So like, go bring the Jesus to a place because you assume that Jesus isn't already there. Go take the internet to a place because it can't possibly already be there. Look, heads up, people, it's already there. It's 3G and it's not all that great, but it's there and they're already on Facebook. They don't need weather balloons and drones flying over.
Facebook got 1.2 billion people on their network somehow, and I promise you, it was not through weather balloons.
Right. I'm sorry. The internet's already there. It's in web cafes. It's a kind term for what many of these places are. But I have yet to find a place, and I'm sure they exist. But generally speaking, in the developing world, the internet's there. The infrastructure isn't there such that they really they see the need for it, or it's as fully integrated into their lives, right? Where you already know your community so well, why do you need Google Maps, for instance? I used Google Maps in Bañero Sur in Paraguay, but none of the people there needed to because, look, they've lived there their whole lives and they know how to get places. Same with the community I work at up in Tunnel Hill, Georgia. They tell me these, makes perfect sense to them, makes no sense to me directions, and I go on Google and figure it out. But the use case just isn't there
the one
for them.
tool that Google has provided to help make that better for everybody is that you can edit the maps yourself. So, if you have a town that's not on Google Maps, and you know all the roads, you can go in and like they'll give you a satellite image. They'll show all the roads, and you can
Right.
give them all names. And so it results with you have. I mean, I've had private properties where the roads are mapped because someone went in and said, "Here's this road, and this is what it's called."
Yeah, and my dinky community in Paraguay that is not on the national map is on Google Maps. Boom. We use
Well
that.
done, Google.
Yeah, well done,
Well
Google.
done.
I mean, we use that fact for a resource mapping project. That, anyways, I'm in the weeds. I hate Internet.org and Project Loon. I hate them. I really hate them. I think they're as racist as 19th century missionaries that just assume that it's not. Of course, it can't already be there because how could indigenous infrastructure do anything? Well, guess what? People really like smartphones. And that's not like developing world or developed world. People like smartphones. And there's a market pushing smartphones, and something like 60% of all phones sold are smartphones no matter where you are. And they even find ways to make dumb phones smarter. So my little piece of junk Nokia.
Well, that's the whole thing that Firefox OS is based around.
But this isn't.
The Asha line is based around.
No. But this isn't even feature phones. Like old school, like 90s era phones, I could do all of my banking on like my 90s era Nokia phone, text messaging, and it had a flashlight. And that was quite literally all you needed in rural Kenya to basically have access to any information you could possibly want. And it had a really, really, really rudimentary web experience.
Especially when you needed to order a new debit card.
Right.
That were great from your.
Yeah.
Your
Well, I
phone.
had to use my 3G modem, but I had a 3G modem. And so the internet's already there. You want to figure out a way, make computers cheaper. And in a way, Google, I guess, is doing that with the Chromebook. You want to really make you want to really make a difference in the developing world, make the Chromebook $99. That's going to get the internet into the developing world much better than satellites or balloons or drones. Make the things you need to access the internet cheaper, right? So there's a line from Top Gear about that the moped was more liberating than the AK-47, right? Because everyone could buy a moped and then they had mobility. You know, cheap smartphones are more liberating than any other piece of technology currently available. Because anyone can buy them, and pretty much
everyone does.
Everyone does. Whether it's downtown Chicago or Kitui, Kenya, most folks have smartphones. And that's liberating. More so than almost any technology that has come out in the past 10 years. So, I'm way off in the weeds. I don't see the point of Project
Hello,
Tango.
weeds. We're here now because of Trey.
I don't see the point of that. I also don't see the point of this week's last call.
Speak for yourself.
So, ever wanted to print crazy pancake designs?
Yes,
Me
always.
neither.
No, forget you.
But nonetheless, it's getting closer to reality. In 2010, Miguel Valenzuela built a pancake printer for his daughters out of Lego and open sourced the design. On May 17th at San Francisco's Maker Faire, he unveiled a non-Lego Arduino and acrylic-based version. It isn't for sale, but it can print the Eiffel Tower in pancake batter. Keep in mind, you still have to cook the things. Look, this is funny.
I could do this with a MakerBot. I'm just saying.
Look,
We have a squeeze bottle.
My problem with a lot of these things is I don't want dozens of specialized 3D printers because I'm unsure if I want to buy one, much less four. So I need one for cakes and one for pancakes and one for plastic and one for metal. I just want one that does food in metal and plastic, and I guess that's where we're heading. But how often am I really trying to print crazy pancake designs?
I'm also going to say, calling this a 3D printer feels disingenuous to me. This is an inverse CNC lathe.
No, this is just
or mill where it'll drill the...
Right, yeah. Which are essentially, in a way, 3D printers. It's just, that's creation by destruction, and 3D printers, as we think of them, is laying down layer after layer. But it's the same basic idea.
Yeah, but this, you only lay down one layer, because all the layers will squish together, because it's delicious pancake batter.
Yeah.
And can we add one that'll add, like, chocolate chips?
No, you couldn't do that.
Yes, you could. You could totally do this.
You have to add in a separate thing that just goes blop with chocolate chips.
It wouldn't go blop because it's a 3D printer, so it would be precise. It would do it only in the places you specified.
No, it wouldn't, because it would still have to drop from a height, and these are chocolate chips.
All right, you need mini chocolate chips, and you need them preformed into perfectly spherical balls.
Yep, not it. That's called Dippin' Dots ice cream, and I've always thought that was weird. I don't care.
But it's ice cream for astronauts.
No, it's not. It's a cheap
only
marketing.
NASA.
It's a marketing gimmick that really hooked the kids at space camp.
Hey,
I always
it
looked.
worked.
I looked.
Liquid nitrogen is amazing stuff. Okay.
Yeah, very interesting. I think molecular. I guess this is molecular gastronomy for kids.
Yes,
but
it is.
Whatever. So on that note, I'm done with this show. If you have any feedback, not about 3D printing pancakes, because I just don't want to hear about it.
No, I want to hear it. So please provide feedback. Tell Trey how wrong he is.
I'm not wrong. Podcast at textlastcall.com, facebook.com/textlastcall, pinterest.com/textlastcall, or at textlastcall on the Twitters. However you find us, you'll be seeing us on the interwebs.